Okay. I'm Sharon Panic. I have had the opportunity to work for Regis University for the last 10 years. Prior to that, I was an elementary school teacher in Fort Collins. So I've always worked in Poudre School District. I've taught kindergarten, first, second, fourth grade. Was the learning disabilities and the moderate needs teacher, so special education, and was the reading specialist. So in the elementary level, I've had lots of experience, but right now my joy is, my joy is in working with college students as they're getting prepared for their career. And one of the big parts of starting a career is that you get the education, which you're doing. And then you have to get the job. When you have the job, you know what you're doing because you've had the education. But the hardest part is getting that job, because nobody trains you as to how, oh, thank you. No one trains you as to how to interview, how to get that job, what skills are you really looking at. And so part of my interaction with my student teachers is the professional disposition. And it's a big long chart, it's a semester-long course that they have to go through each of the ideas as to what makes you job ready. And whether it's in healthcare, or in business, or for me, in education, the skills are transferable. What makes a difference? And just, kind of shout out a couple of ideas. What do you think makes the difference between you getting the job and someone else getting it?
The way you present yourself.
The way you present yourself, exactly. So, do they feel that you will be a good match for their building, their business, their community, whatever is the purpose of the business? Will you be a good match? Employees are expensive commodities. You're very expensive. If they hire you, they have to have a belief in you. And so what makes you ready? What makes you prepared and a better candidate than someone else who's also applying for that job? And that's what we want to go ahead and talk about today, is a few things that will make those. Tresvant, help me on getting this. Space bar?
Yes, space bar.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Don. I appreciate it. I need the computer skills more than. Okay, this one. It's a belief in yourself. You can do it. I love this Winston Churchill quote. It just speaks to, if you believe in yourself, someone else will. You may not get that very first position, but the right match, the right position will be there if you don't give up. And so, truly, professionalism is one's conduct at work. How do you set yourself up to be the person that they want to hire? And not only to hire, but to keep the job. In education, it's very evident as we track positions that if you are able to keep your position for 2 years, you've got it. And it's that dropout rate before the 2 years that says, ooh, not rehirable, not in that position of having the soft skills. You can learn content information, but the professionalism comes from the heart. The professionalism comes from the way you present yourself. So bottom line is, you have to listen and pay attention to the culture of your business. And medical versus business versus education have different skill sets, but when you break it down to what keeps you hireable, it is all in your ability to listen and pay attention to what's around you. So I would encourage you to spend as much time in the field that you're going into, spend as much time shadowing, being mentored, having that hands-on opportunity. For education, we send our students out for a semester of tutoring, then a semester of being an aide or paraprofessional in the building, and then student teaching. So they truly have 3 semesters in the classroom before they say, this is my chosen career. If you take a look at all the soft skills, these are skills that are identifiable. These are skills that as we work on a professional disposition, we're looking at, and you think, oh my gosh, that's kind of overwhelming. But think about verbal communication. If you are able to present your ideas in a manner that is understandable, you are able to have that share, that dialogue going on, it does make a difference. Your employer and other employees, and most importantly, your clientele, will have a feeling that you're at least on the same level of understanding. We have to make those communication skills. The interpersonal skills, can you make eye contact? Are you actively listening? Are you engaged with what's going on? Or are you thinking about your cell phone, your activity after work, something else? Being engaged, it's truly important. And writing skills, can people understand what you're saying? I know that in today's world we're going more and more to technology, but just as the sign-in roster was being passed around and you very charmingly said, please make sure we can read your name, your ability to write, not only the printing or cursive, but writing in standard business language writing is important. Can you send a memo? Can you put out your notes on what was happening so that others can understand it? Writing skills are important. I was just chatting with a high school teacher who is the connection between the colleges and the high school, and she does many references for students along the way. And her big thing is if they can't write, if they haven't built those writing skills while they're in high school, they really truly struggle in career or in college, you know, whatever they're doing. So writing skills are important. Problem solving and critical thinking, and this is one that I will encourage you to really think about. If you are the one that recognizes that there's a problem and go, I don't know what to do about it, or you're quick to run and complain, this isn't working, this doesn't fit, this is not going the way it's supposed to, this isn't fair, but you don't have a solution, your employer is going to be rather less willing to listen because you come across as complaining. On the other hand, if you recognize that there is a problem and you say, this isn't working, but if we try such and such, you're the problem solver. You're coming up with a skill set that elevates your position. This gives you some information. Active listening and active learning. Always be present. Be there. Be involved with what's going on. and not be afraid to learn something new. Organization, that speaks to everything. Be there on time, know where you're supposed to be. I loved it when this morning, no, you were exactly where you were supposed to be and early. And it put me on that situation of, where am I supposed to be? But we both had plenty of time to figure it out. That's that situation. Don't plan that everything's going to go according to schedule. So by organization, you build in a little bit extra, and you're able to problem solve. That time management piece fits right in with that. Being a team player, this is huge. Most of us prefer to do it ourselves. Most of us say, I've got the information, I can do it. Just, it's all the people around me who are bugging me. Being a team player, this is probably one of the hardest coachable skills, because you have to be willing to share. You have to be willing to give up some of your ego and be part of that community, wherever it is. Many years ago, probably 15 business leaders came to the schools and said, the problem with the schools is all of these kids learn to be competitive. All of these kids want to be the best mathematician, the best reader, the most stars on the chart. All of these things that they are competing against each other. And they said, when you get to the business world and you can't work with each other, those employees don't stay. They don't get to, they're not an asset to our business. And so that's the piece that business wants team players. Business wants people who can work together, because if you can't, it's a drain on the energy collectively. So do learn, and that comes back to, if you're an active listener, if you are a participant, if you are truly there, that works. And the professionalism piece says, present the best side of yourself. We are ready. You already got the brain power, the academic knowledge, you're prepared. Now go on out and present yourself the way that says, I'm ready. And lastly, this is my personal one, and this is as a reading specialist. Understand what you're reading. In technical material, and I will have to say, if I was reading any of your accounting books or your business law, I would struggle. I would have to really, really focus on that. But reading comprehension means taking a look at it till you really understand it, or getting that help where you need. If you don't understand and you make an error based on, I just didn't have time to read that stuff. I didn't have time to read the manual. I didn't have time to read, or I didn't get it, but I can fake it. That costs businesses a lot. So understand it or ask for clarification. Questions on that? Any of these that don't seem to make sense? Great. Okay, this is huge. Your first impression. You only get to do it once. So as you're presenting yourself, you want to make sure that it's the image that you want to present, that they will understand who you are. For my student teachers, I tell them that they are on a 16-week job interview. They go to that school every single day for 16 weeks. And every time they walk through the door, the office manager is evaluating them, the custodian is evaluating them, the principal, the classroom teacher, the parents, the students. It's not just one person. It's not the person you interview with that you need to make the impression with. It's collectively everyone that you are walking through and will have contact with. When you take a look at that, just quick ideas on what you think making that good impression is. What does that look like in the business that you want to go into?
The right dress attire.
Okay, so should that be formal dress, tuxedo as you walk in for?
No,
No, go ahead, keep.
just like if you're going in for an office job, just a nice office attire.
Correct. So you had to do a little research to know what was appropriate for that business. Exactly. Come on in. We've got room over here. There's, when you are taking a look at whatever position you're going into, if you are applying at a ski resort, you better have some ski wear. You better have your heavy jacket and be prepared that way. But if you are going to the hospital, it looks totally different. Know what is appropriate for the area you're going into. And my suggestion is always one step cleaner, crisper, more professional than is what is expected. Not meaning that you're going to walk in a tuxedo because you look pretty silly. But take a look at things with long sleeve shirt and a tie. Would it fit most job interview situations? Absolutely. Would a dress, nice dress slacks, a sweater or a professional top fit most situations? Absolutely. What we're talking about here is coming in ripped jeans and dirty shirt does not make an impression. That is it is a lasting impression. It is very definitely a lasting impression, but not the lasting impression that you want. And that's the situation that you want to just think it through first. And that goes back to being prepared. So on this, making a good impression, voice, it's the way you speak. Are you speaking in complete sentences, in standard English, in the vocabulary of your profession? You know, whether it's business or healthcare or computers or education. Do you know the language? It also means something else. And this one has been pointed out. This ended up being part of the professional dispositions for the student teachers, in that for the first time they had to put in, are you using language that's considered professional, or are you using street language, meaning more four-letter words that need to be heard in a business situation? Not for the good impression, typically not in business at all. I would say I'd really have to think hard to think of appropriate times to use off-color words in business. So I would say, you know, make that good impression and just hold yourself to that higher standard. Demeanor, are you willing? Are you open? Are you present? Dress and being responsive, knowing what is going on. All of these keywords I'm pulling from the professional dispositions for, I have now worked for 4 different universities. Typically I'm working at Regis, and theirs is very set. I also work for University of Northern Colorado on a full-time basis. But every once in a while, I will get another school who will ask if I will just take a student. And it's a one-shot deal, but it gives me an opportunity to see more of these professional disposition charts. So I'm just pulling the key words that show up over and over. And this really is one of them that I thought, responsiveness. Do you engage? Are you willing to be there? So, comments? Anything that strikes you on this or a question? Okay.
Karen, can this be also applied to their social media?
Oh, yes, and that is one that we were going to get to. Please, for social media, for all forms of communication, before you apply for a job, think through. If your email address is ready for a party, change your email address. Make it look professional. If your cell phone says, please wait while we reach your party, and you play some obscene rap song on there as the music to wait for, change the music. Change the message. If it says, yo, leave a message, make it professional. Make it professional. So everything that, as people contact you, you've got a professional look. The other thing is, please, 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 check all your social media. Facebook, you might not have put anything on there that looks inappropriate, but your friends may have tagged you, and if you are on tabletop drinking, or you've got a whole table of shots out there in front of you, please delete that. Delete it, delete it. My suggestion is when you go to apply for jobs, when you are ready, you lock down that account. Don't let anyone have access to it, because all HR departments right now do background searches, and they will search all forms of social media. They want to see what's on your Facebook, on Twitter, on any Snapchat, anything that they can get to, because they want to see who they are investing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in. And if you are presenting an image that doesn't meet their business, they don't want to hire you. It doesn't mean that you can't have fun, and it doesn't mean that you can't connect with your friends, but have it as a lockdown so that you're only connecting with your friends. Truly, HR departments have people who are doing nothing but background checks on you. They want to make sure. And it's not that idea that they are snooping into your business. You've posted it. So please look at what you've posted, and get rid of anything that would be considered questionable. Also, take a look at what your background is. You know, for teachers, they do a very specific background check. One of my teachers, one of my student teachers, had an interesting situation. It was heartbreaking. Her first weekend in college, she was at a party and there was drinking. And the cops came in and busted everybody. She personally hadn't been drinking. She said, please do a breathalyzer. It came out as 0.0. But it was posted on the police report that she was there and guilty by association. She was told, you know, and those are those things, you're told that it's going to be a closed case when you are 21. When you turn 21, it's done. Because she hadn't even turned 18 at the time. So she just thought, it just disappears when I turn 21. It can be closed, but you personally have to contact the police department and say, please make sure that that file is closed. She went ahead and applied for a job. It says, have you ever had any arrests or convictions? And she wrote no. She was offered the teaching position. Then they do the background check. And before the contract, so she has the verbal offer for the teaching position. She's so excited. Before she gets the contract in the mail to sign, they do this background check. They send her this package by certified mail that said, you lied. You may never apply to our district again. So she lost the job and the ability to apply in the district where she lives. Turns out it was truly an innocent situation, but she needed to have done that background work to say, somebody told me that it would be closed. Look it up. Has your file been closed? If it's not been closed and something's there, on the application write yes. And then do a very detailed explanation as to why this will not be an issue for your future employer. That's huge. Don't lie. And that piece of being honest is so, so enormous. Lying is probably one of the items that catches people more than anyone else. Another case on lying, and I can't even think of a nicer word to say for this one, was teacher, and he also was in the position of being hired full-time. This time he told me, I have a doctor's appointment. And I said, really? On a school day? You couldn't get it after school, or 2 days later it's going to be a work day? You couldn't have done it then? No, it has to be this day. So grudgingly I said, okay, but remember you have to make up that time. And one of the parents said, oh, I saw your student teacher. I said, really? At the doctor's office? She said, no, opening day for the Rockies. He's on Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And he'd had a little bit more than he needed to drink. And I walked in the next day and said, so, how was the game? And you can just see all the blood rush right out of you. And I said, do you know that if you had told me this is a family tradition, we've had tickets since the beginning of time, could I please go to this game and make up the time afterwards? I would have said yes. Just be honest. Just be honest. Employers know that you've got a life. If you've got a wedding, if you've got something that's going on, it's not a big deal. Life happens, but don't lie about it. So those are, a couple of little stories that will just kind of put it in perspective of this whole situation is based on a relationship. Professionalism means a relationship. It means, can we get there? This one is really interesting. It is part of one of the professional dispositions on look at your five senses. Now, truly, I hope we're not dealing with taste. Yes, sir.
Oh, I was thinking, I'm older, so I'm in totally different situation. But as you're young, you don't have a choice, the employer's holding all the cards. But you don't want to give yourself away either. You don't want to go into a job that you sacrifice everything to get and you hate it. And
Correct.
you don't wanna be there, that's just the worst, you know? So, I mean, you have to try and please them, but you don't give up, you know, you don't totally make yourself fake either. Just because, you know, a lot of people feel like you're giving up all your rights and all this and that. Well, you have to, you know, if you want that job, that's the employer. You have to please them. But don't, you know, don't give up everything and then when you're there, you just hate it. Because it's no good either, yeah.
Okay. I've often thought of it as a dance. You give a little and you take a little, and you give a little and you take a little. But the reality is, the first dance doesn't mean a lifetime commitment. It means I'm checking things out. You need to see if you're a good fit for that company, if you will personally be happy. They need to see if you will be a good investment for them. So it's a match, and if it's not a match, that's the time that you want to say, I'll look elsewhere.
Yeah, protect yourself. Don't totally go in there just to get the job and give up everything.
Absolutely. It needs to truly be a match, and that has to be that working relationship. I personally know that although I'm very comfortable with my ability to teach at an elementary school level, there are some buildings that would be a perfect match. I could walk in and teach any classroom. And there are some buildings that we are that far apart. Philosophy-wise, that's not my style. And I couldn't do it, so I wouldn't do it. And as you said, with age you have a few more opportunities. Your first job, you want that experience, because until you have experience on your resume, you're still the new kid on the block. So you do want that, you want the experience, but you also, please don't just take the first job. Research, and that we'll get into a little bit more. But as you think about 5 senses, this is just a real quick way to review in your head. Am I ready? Am I ready? Is what someone sees going to be appealing? Is there anything in the way you present yourself that would be offensive? And you need to know the culture of your building. If you are walking in an elementary school with 7 piercings in your tongue and tattoos all over, you probably are not going to be job ready. First off, I know that you can't teach phonics if you've got all that metal in your mouth. So get it out. If you choose to put it in afterwards, that's your business. And what's your personal time is truly your personal time. But when you are job ready, you need to present yourself as the professional for that position. What do they hear? And that's the language. How do you present yourself? And it doesn't mean that we all sound like little robots talking exactly the same. It means that we have the skills to communicate. Smell. This is really a big one. There are so many allergies in the world. Make sure that whatever you are wearing as far as colognes and perfumes and soaps and whatever, that it's mild, that you're not offensive. On the other hand, make sure that you're clean. Make sure that you don't come in with offensive body odor. And, you know, it truly is one of those situations in working with students. I've become quite adept at saying, come in clean. That means everything from head to foot, you need to be clean. The other thing is how you present yourself, how you dress. And I said 3 B's are really important. If boob, butt, or belly is showing, you're not ready to walk through the door. So think about how you look. And then touch. Know what personal space is, what your personal bubble is as far as space. If I come too close, it makes that person uncomfortable. If I stand too far away and say, Thane, I'm so excited to be here, but I'm not willing to engage, you don't believe me. So we have to know that personal space. I don't mean being touchy-feely and putting your hands all over somebody. Know how to give a handshake, know how to have that personal space. And what's professional and what's appropriate matters. If you are sitting in a job interview and you are leaning in the chair and just kind of reclining, relaxing, you're not in touch with the people that you are engaging with. It doesn't mean sitting on the very edge of the chair either. It's knowing that balance. So these are just thoughts. This is that quick little reminder, if I do that, check as I walk through the door, am I prepared? And knowing your 5 senses, wow, we learned that in kindergarten, 1st grade, so it's a real easy reminder. This is also something that is huge. Know where you're applying. Know your business. You need to read their mission statement. You need to thoroughly read their website. You need to know where they're going, not where they're at right now and where they're going, and how you fit in the view. Because you want to go in and be able to say to them, this is what I have to offer you. Your first question isn't going to be, what's the salary and how many days off do I get each year? It's how can you benefit them? You want to be able to be that match. And as far as reading the website, reading what's going on, I have heard, I know one of the employers that embeds something in the mission statement page, not in the mission statement itself, but on that page, just a statement that truly doesn't make sense at all. And then they finish the interview and say, so do you have any questions? By the way, absolutely, you do have a question. No matter where you go, when they finish the interview and they ask, do you have any questions? You better have a question prepared. You can even write it down ahead of time, but what's your question? So this particular employer embeds this nonsense statement in the website and says, do you have any questions? And she is specifically looking for you to ask, so what does that mean? And the statement was something about starfish. And the business had nothing to do with starfish at all. Nothing. And she wanted to know, did you read her website? Did you care enough? Are you engaged in their business enough to know what they had on the website and that it didn't make sense? So it goes back to the reading comprehension. It also goes to the idea of, did you look them up? Yes.
May I interject something there? I've read websites that are confusing like that, and usually I look at it as a sign that there's a problem with the company, and I just go look for another company.
Oh, okay. Well, this statement says, we believe in starfish.
And I would say, why?
Exactly, that's exactly
But I
what you
wouldn't
want
go
to
ask her, I just say, well, you know, maybe I just need to go look somewhere else.
Okay, and and that's an interesting comment, Linda, that, quite possibly that's off-putting to you. And if it is, that is okay. But the reality is, if something doesn't make sense, ask. But have a question. What kind of questions could you have? Just think of a business that you want to apply to. What kind of question could you have at the end of an interview that doesn't involve salary or time off?
Where's the company gonna be in 5 years from now?
Yes, good one. What's another?
What's the career progression that I can look forward to?
Okay,
Because you're showing you're gonna be there for a while.
exactly, because you're not there for 6 months or a year. You're looking at the next 15 years. Good question. Another one, what else would you want to know about a company?
Training opportunities?
Training opportunities, sure.
Tuition reimbursement, more on a personal level, what's the ideal candidate look like for this position?
Excellent. So tell me, what does the ideal candidate look like? What is the perfect computer specialist look like? And, you know, when we went on dress, the way computer folks go into their workstation and the way healthcare professionals go in, it looks different as far as your dress and demeanor, but what does it look like? You know, what does that candidate look like to you? And they're going to be talking about the creativity and the that idea of you work your own schedule type of situation, the brain power piece, because that's what they're hiring. So absolutely, good question. Yes.
What kind of outreach is available?
Okay, explain that a little more.
Like what if you're going into the healthcare field and stuff like that? What kind of outreach, like the training and the education and stuff, what's available?
Excellent. The other thing that you want to look at is make your question look like something that you are offering to them. So you don't want all your questions to be, what can you do for me? But here's a skill I have, how will this fit in with you? Yes?
I also like to think that maybe you should ask them what they bring to possibly the community or the surrounding area as well.
Oh, very good, because in this opportunity for us to be community-based, world aware, absolutely. How does this company connect with our community around us? And I would encourage you, when you look at the website, say, I noticed that you have this outreach program. How would I be able to fit into that as a new employee? So now you address the fact that you've already read their website. You know some of the information, but how are you going to be able to fit into that? How will you be able to offer services? So, yes, another question.
Another thing is with knowing the business, knowing the company, just remember that they're doing a background check on you, so you can do a background check on them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would, without a doubt, be looking at their website, but also doing a Google search on everything that's been in the media, everything that has been, and you will see pros and cons on every business. You will see comments on them. Make sure that you know what you're getting into and that it's going to be a good match for both of you. So, here are some professionalism skills that require zero talent. Be on time. Absolutely be on time. Now, everybody has a mishap once in a while, but if it's consistent, that gets in the way. Work ethic, show that you're there, that you are totally committed. Effort, put your heart and soul into it. If they are employing you, they deserve your full attention. Body language. I am just so over this one. No. Rolling your eyes, shaking your head, turning your body, being unengaged. It speaks volumes. So know what your body language is. Energy. Are you dragging? oh, last night was such a night, I can hardly get here. Or are you excited every day? Be there. Be there in your head and in your energy level and your attitude, your passion. Be coachable. You know, if I could show you one more time, and you go, that's not coachable. That's not. You put up a wall and said, I'm not interested. Don't tell me anything. Or, thanks. I didn't know that. You know, that will make it easier for me next time. What's your approach when somebody offers help? Be willing to do extra. If you see something that needs to be done, whether it's picking up a paper that was dropped on the floor inadvertently, or rearranging some furniture, or whatever it happens to be, put in the extra. Show that you care. And then be prepared. Always come in with the education that you're being provided right now, with the attitude, with the willingness to search out more information, and just be prepared. Comments on these. This is not talent-based. This is attitude-based. Anything that you've got to say, Rose? Okay. And then this one is where when you go in, it is confidence and competence. You need to go in with that attitude of, I can do it. I can. Just be prepared. So, bottom line, you've got the academics, and you are totally in charge of the attitude. So go for it and have a great, great career. Enjoy. Any questions? I would be happy to answer questions, give you background information as far as my experience. One of the best parts that I have with my job is the connections with principals, because every year they will call and say, okay, Sharon, tell me your top 3 candidates because I'm hiring. It's connections you make in town. With your instructors here, you want to make sure that they know who you are, because employers are calling them and asking. Thank you.
Sharon, can you talk to the issues that employers have when they see on a resume that it appears that that applicant is essentially job shopping, that they're just looking for that job that might pay you 25 cents extra an hour. So they're staying for maybe 6 months, a year. As soon as they get an offer for 50 cents more an hour, boom, they're gone. They do the same thing at that job. How does, I mean, in the short term for that applicant, it might seem like they're moving ahead. But for long-term prospects, when that employer is looking at that, how seriously do they take that?
They do look at your job record. You know, how often are you switching jobs, and why did you switch? If you are switching because it works around your school schedule, that, excuse me, is perfectly fine, because they know that a school schedule is really challenging. But if you are doing, just as Thane was alluding to, the idea of, excuse me, job shopping for 25, 50 cents an hour, employers put way too much money into your training. It costs a company several $1,000s to get you trained. And you're thinking, I'm doing the work. No, you're not doing the work at the same level as somebody who's been there for a couple of years. So that part, I would encourage you, look at the implications as to what it looks like on your resume for 17 jobs in 2 years versus 2 jobs in 2 years. One looks a lot more steady, dependable, that they actually would have someone that they could call. When they can call your past employer and say, tell me about this employee, and they say, who? I don't even remember that person. Because if you were there such a short time, you won't have a recommendation. So you're building all the time, you are building your credibility. As far as professional positions, you probably aren't going to change frequently. It doesn't mean you're stuck in it for life, but you should have enough time there that you've learned from them, and that you've given service, enough service to them that they will give a recommendation for you.
I don't know how you would ask them too, then, to tell them, try and say that, I'm willing to be here and do what needs to be done so I can move ahead, but, what are you gonna do for me? If somebody comes and offers me $1 more, I have a family, I've got other considerations that, what are you gonna do for me also? I'm gonna be there for you, but.
Right.
And how do you say that?
That is one that you can't do it in your first month, probably even in your first 5 months, but most positions you can request an evaluation of your work at 6 months. Say, I would like to talk to you about my progress with the company. And I really, really enjoy working here. This is what I am bringing to you, what I've learned, and I'm now in a position that I'm offering my skills to you because I've learned it. I'm no longer the new employee. Another company has offered me a higher wage. I'd prefer to stay here, and that's what you want to focus on. I would prefer to stay here, but I do need to think of what's in the best interest of supporting my family. They've offered me X. Could we negotiate? And I think that is part of that communication skill. Could we negotiate? And I would suggest that instead of reaching for the highest dollar amount, that maybe you seek something halfway between where you're at and what the other company potentially will offer, because you don't know that it's a real job yet. And I truly believe that old adage of a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. You don't know if you're going to get that new job. So if you ask for something halfway in between, it says, I'm willing to negotiate, I'm not being greedy, but I do have a family to support, or I do have myself to support, I do have to think about that piece.
I just thought about something else, how, if they ask you something illegal, like, how are you gonna take care of your kids, or how many kids do you have, or how old are you? How do you not answer that without sabotaging your interview?
Thank you for asking. I have everything taken care of. You can be polite. I hope all of you know, when you go for a job interview, they cannot ask you, are you married, single, divorced, do you have young kids, are you pregnant? They cannot ask that. How long do you plan on staying? They can't ask that. So, there are questions that are illegal for them to ask. And sometimes in that conversation piece, when it's not the formal interview, but it's conversation. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
And you spill all the beans.
You can, if it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
But they're hoping that you will share some information. One, they'd like to know you, and that's okay. But if they're using it to evaluate whether you're going to get the job or not, those are questions and if you don't want to answer them, come up with some very set answers, and you might even write them down, keep them inside a notebook. Thank you for asking, I have everything all taken care of. I've already thought about that. Doesn't say, I have 7 kids under the age of 5, and I'll be racing to get them taken care of. No, have everything set, thank you. But truly do know what are legal questions and what are illegal questions. They cannot, there are certain ones that they cannot ask, so. Do you go over that when they do job interviews? Okay.
Yeah, and you can keep a pad too, so you can write it down if you have a question.
Yes, yes. As you go into an interview, always have a nice little notepad with you. As they're asking a question, if you want to jot down the key words in that question to help you remember, help you stay focused as you are interviewing, because you're nervous. You get a little anxious and you start rambling on, and then you go, what was the question? So if you write it down, that's fine. The other piece is a couple of your notes about the business. If you aren't good at names and you want to write down the names of the key people in the business, absolutely, write them down. If you hear something that you want to refer back to later, ask. And write them up, write it down, write it down, write it down. Okay. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When a lot of the times you're looking for experience, coming right out of school, how do you, if they ask you what kind of experience you have, if you don't have, like if you're not shadowing or if you're not in a program that has, where you can.
Required internships,
Yeah.
right? Okay. If you have the opportunity, take advantage of any opportunity to shadow or do an internship. But if it's not built in, say, and they ask that question, what is your experience? Say, I have all the academics and all the enthusiasm in the world, and I'm a really quick study. I am ready. Every single person who has any position in the world started without any experience. We all start without experience. That's reality. So we do tend to want to give an opportunity to somebody who says, I've got the knowledge, I've got the attitude. I am eager and ready to work for you. And it's not a bad thing. And you have to get experience someplace, so.
I just noticed like on a lot of the postings that I've looked at, they want like 2 years experience. And I just don't know. Should you still apply for those jobs?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, you do apply. You do apply, and when they say you don't have experience, and you say, but I've got education, and I am a willing and quick learner. You've got to promote yourself, and don't lie. Don't say, oh yeah, I've got 5 years experience.
To feed off of that, you say, do you apply? I had a friend that got straight out of the Army, applied for a management position, and it asked for like 5 years experience, but he didn't have 5 years experience, but he applied anyway because it was something he wanted to do. When he got to the interview, the lady said, you're qualified, and you have less experience than anybody that's qualified, but we like you because of what you can bring to us. And he was positive. Apply for him because you may get called in anyway, even if you don't have that experience. You don't think you have that experience, and you may have it through other things.
Well, make them think about it. If you're totally qualified too, somebody with 5 years, they're gonna have to pay them. And they can pay
It's
you a lot
cheaper to pay
less.
somebody that's coming in to learn that's been there.
There is that option, but the reality is you have to promote with attitude and academics. you got the academics, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't have the right attitude. So go forth and